All right, so today we're diving into a story that's practically hardwired into, our collective consciousness, right? Adam and Eve. I mean, we all know the basic plot, but we're going deeper than that today, exploring the why behind their choices and, unpacking all those layers of regret that make the story so relatable even thousands of years later.
Yeah, it's fascinating how a story that's so often framed as like a simple morality tale can be so psychologically and philosophically rich.
Right.
And the source material we've got for you today, Beyond Eden, Adam and Eve's ultimate regret and redemption, it really digs into those complexities.
Okay, so, we start with Adam alone in the Garden of Eden. It's easy to picture him just kicking back, enjoying paradise, right? But our source kind of paints a different picture, one where he's already wrestling with some pretty big questions. He's not just content, he's contemplative. What do you make of that?
Well, the text highlights Adam's deep yearning for knowledge even before Eve enters the scene.
Okay.
He wasn't just looking for a companion, he was searching for understanding, for a deeper connection with the very nature of his existence.
Right.
Remember, he walked with the Creator, engaged in conversation. It wasn't about rebelling against the established order, but about grasping the why behind it all.
Yeah, it's like that insatiable curiosity that, that drives us to learn, to explore, to kind of push the boundaries of what we know. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the source argues that for Adam, the desire for knowledge wasn't just about, accumulating facts. It was about bridging the gap between himself and the Creator.
Right.
About seeking a deeper level of intimacy through understanding.
That's a really interesting take. So when he does eat the fruit, knowing it's forbidden,
right,
is it just about disobedience? Or is there something more at play?
Well, the text emphasizes Adam's immediate reaction. Fear and shame. It's not just about getting caught breaking the rules.
Yeah.
It's about the weight of what he's done. He's crossed a threshold and there's no going back.
So the knowledge itself brings this burden of awareness.
Exactly. Before taking that bite, life was simple, provided for.
Right.
There was a sense of effortless existence. Suddenly, he's acutely aware of his own vulnerability, his mortality.
Yeah.
He's gained knowledge, but he's also lost that primal innocence.
And then there's that powerful image of Adam hiding from the Creator. Right.
It's not just a physical hiding, is it?
No, it speaks to a deeper sense of separation. That knowledge, the very thing he sought, has created a distance between himself and the Creator. It's a moment that I think speaks to a very human experience. Sometimes the things we most desire come with unintended consequences.
And that brings us to Eve, whose desire for knowledge takes a slightly different form. I mean, she's often painted as the one who gives in to temptation.
Right.
But it seems like she's driven by something deeper than just wanting a tasty piece of fruit.
Yeah, the serpent doesn't just offer Eve an apple, right? It's like, be like God. To me, that speaks to a yearning for empowerment, for autonomy, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's almost as if she saw a chance to level the playing field.
Right.
To gain a deeper understanding of the world, even if it meant bending the rules a bit. And that's a crucial point. Eve's desire, it wasn't simply about disobeying.
Right.
It was about actively choosing to know, to claim her agency, even if it came at a price.
Okay.
She wanted to understand both sides of the coin, good and evil.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a desire that speaks to our own human drive to transcend limits.
Right.
To grasp for a more complete picture of reality.
I can see that. And even though her choice leads to consequences, our source points out this interesting duality in her regret. There's remorse for the hardship it brings, but also a sense of pride in her self-awareness.
Yeah. Her
agency in making that choice. She owned it.
Exactly. And that's what makes her story so compelling. She didn't just passively accept her fate.
Right.
She took control of her own destiny. Yes, it came with consequences, but it also set the stage for human growth, resilience, and that uniquely human experience of joy and suffering.
So we've got Adam, driven by this deep need to understand his place in the grand scheme of things, and Eve, yearning for empowerment and the freedom to define her own path. Both of them choosing knowledge, and both experiencing regret. But isn't their regret kind of a shared regret in a way? It wasn't just their own personal loss, right? It feels much bigger than that.
It absolutely is, because that choice, that departure from the Garden of Eden, it's often interpreted as a symbolic representation of the innocence we lose.
Okay.
Not just as individuals, but as a species. Think about how often do we yearn for a simpler time, a world without the complexities and anxieties of modern life.
It's like that yearning is woven into the fabric of who we are.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And the garden becomes a symbol of that lost innocence,
Yep.
that state of blissful ignorance where our needs were met without question.
And what's fascinating is that our source, Beyond Eden, argues that Adam and Eve's regret wasn't just about the fall itself, but the realization that seeking to be more, to gain knowledge and autonomy, came with a cost. They gained knowledge, yes, but
Yeah.
they also lost that carefree existence they once had.
That's the human condition in a nutshell, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're wired to strive, to learn, to evolve, but it's rarely a straight line of progress.
Right.
There's often this bittersweet element. Like our source describes Adam toiling the soil, sweat on his brow, a powerful image of how knowledge can lead to hardship, even as it pushes us forward.
So let's kind of recap for our listeners, right? We've got Adam driven by this deep need to understand his place in the grand scheme of things, even if it means rocking the boat. And Eve yearning for empowerment and that freedom to define her own path, willing to take a risk to achieve it, both of them choosing knowledge, and both ultimately experiencing regret.
Yeah.
But how does this all relate to us in the 21st century?
Well, that's where the story gets really interesting, right? Because while it's easy to romanticize the Garden of Eden,
Right.
to imagine it as this blissful state of effortless existence, it's important to ask ourselves, would we trade our capacity for growth, for love, for creativity, even with all the messiness that comes with it, just to go back to a state of,
Right.
blissful ignorance?
It's a question that's been debated for centuries. And, it's one that we're still grappling with today. We're bombarded with information, constantly striving for knowledge, for a better understanding of ourselves and the world around us. But what are the true costs of that knowledge?
And that's where Beyond Eden takes things a step further. What if the fall wasn't a punishment,
Okay.
but a necessary step in human evolution?
Whoa. Okay, hold on. Let's unpack that for a second.
Think about it. In the garden, Adam and Eve existed in a controlled environment.
Right.
Their needs were met. Their path was predetermined. But by leaving, by facing challenges and making their own choices, they were thrust onto a different trajectory. One where they had the potential to become something more than just caretakers of a pre-designed paradise. They were, in a sense, set free to truly discover their full potential.
So you're saying that their fall wasn't a fall at all, but rather a springboard into something greater, a chance to become more than they were before.
It's a radical interpretation, but it makes you think, doesn't it? It suggests that maybe, just maybe, the capacity for both good and evil, for joy and sorrow, is what truly makes us human. It's what allows us to experience the full spectrum of life, to learn and grow from our mistakes, and to ultimately shape our own destinies.
Wow, that's a lot to wrap your head around, and it makes you wonder, what gardens have we left behind in pursuit of something more? What knowledge has we sought that came with a price? That's something I think we can all ponder. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
Always a pleasure, and remember, knowledge is a powerful tool, but it's up to us to use it wisely.